Hi, so my name's Max Hawker. I'm a neurodivergent social worker and writer based in London. I have a diagnosis of OCD and I am also awaiting an assessment for ADHD, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about OCD today. So what is OCD? Well, the O stands for obsessive. That means you can't stop thinking about something, no matter how hard you try. I think we're all familiar with that. The C is for compulsive. That means you are compelled to take some kind of action, usually to alleviate your anxiety in the context of OCD. And the D is for disorder. That means something's going on inside your head that isn't neurotypical. So how many of us are there? The charity OCD UK estimates that 12 in every 1,000 people in the UK have OCD. That's more than 1 in 100 and represents 1.2% of the population. So there's actually quite a few of us. Where does it come from? There's a lot of research looking at what causes OCD. There's no definitive answer yet, but we do know that OCD runs in families, and that points to it possibly being genetic. Research also suggests that OCD involves a problem with two parts of the brain talking to each other, the front part of the brain and some of the deeper parts. Further research involving scans of the brains of people with OCD has shown some interesting structural differences when compared with people who don't have OCD. So in this respect, we can say that if you have OCD, you are neurodivergent. Whether it is an acquired form of neurodivergence or not, as opposed to something you are born with, is a separate matter. For me, OCD is an intrinsic part of my identity, so it informs my practice as a social worker too. I have intrusive thoughts about things going wrong and me being at fault, which on the plus side means I usually have very good attention to detail. The flip side is that my time can get eaten up if I'm anxious and trying to compensate by being too detailed. It's important to say that this is an excessive form of anxiety and obsessive thoughts and worrying about things going wrong. We obviously all have those thoughts in social care and social work, but for me it becomes almost overwhelming at times. One of the characteristics of OCD is checking, whether that's physically checking something isn't wrong. So for example, checking a locked door or checking that your iron is turned off. But it can be seeking reassurance from someone you trust if you are worried as well. And for me, that's the form it most often takes. And that's particularly invisible to people on the outside. The checking does mean I pay very close attention to safeguarding, which is great, but it exhausts me and it can become completely overwhelming at times. The other thing, which is a blessing and a curse, is the need for structure and pattern behaviour with OCD. I get pretty upset if an existing structural pattern in my life suddenly changes or something unexpected happens, but it's also helpful having the skills for developing structure to apply in my practice. As with anything, it's a balancing act. So that's a whistle-stop tour of OCD and how it impacts me as a social worker, but there is a lot you can learn about it. I'd encourage you to do so. And I'd also encourage you to look past the caricature of OCD that you often see in the media. Cheers.